Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
All right, welcome everybody to another cloud computing career Q&A session from us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am your Chief Operating Officer. I'm joined by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO, and Alonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer. So we are here to answer any questions that you might have about your cloud computing career, whether you're interested in the cloud architect career, the cloud engineer career, or any cloud career for that matter. This is where you can come and ask your questions so that we can help you get started off in the right direction. So if you've got questions about cloud architect training, cloud architect career training, cloud architect jobs in general, or if you've got questions about the cloud engineer training, cloud engineer jobs or anything of that nature, again, I'm just going to keep saying it. Ask us your questions. That's what we're here for. So going to let Mike share a few words here and have Alonzo share a few words, but I can't reiterate it enough. Ask us some questions. We're here to help you. We're here completely for free today, Wednesday, to help you. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, and I hope everyone is wonderful today. We're here today to help you build your best career. You know, I keep hearing this thing that said mistakes are a great way to learn, but the reality is mistakes cost you time, effort, and money. You know, if you know exactly how to go from point A to point B without any mistakes, you might get somewhere in less than 6 months in the same place that someone else may take 20 years trying to learn by making mistakes. And that's why I'm here, because I've been in technology now for over 25 years. I've been an architect now for over 25 years, and I've spent more than 2 decades helping people just like you, getting their first tech job, getting promoted in tech, negotiating $100,000 raises, and anything else you could possibly imagine of in the technology spectrum. And that's why I'm here, because I know what it's like to not know where to go and zigzag around and call your local computer school and have them send you to a boot camp, and you're done the boot camp and nobody's interested in hiring you, so you go to another boot camp and another boot camp and another boot camp. Believe me, I've been there. I did it 25 years ago, and I don't want any of you to do it. And that's why, and the reality is, and I hate when it comes to us, we take people from everybody else's boot camp and completely retrain them because they learned all the wrong skills because the person teaching the job never had it before. So in these last 25 years, I've been an enterprise architect, a cloud architect, a network architect, business architect, and I just want to help you. So ask us your questions so we can truly help you. We try to bring you on this channel really great people. Yesterday, we brought my friend and colleague, David Lithicum, he's from Deloitte. You know, I brought you VPs from NVIDIA. I brought you global program managers. I brought you, the CEO of the best recruiting firm I know in New York City. And we're always bringing someone here to help you in your career. But, how do you get to the goal? You build a map. And that's why I'm here completely free. I get upwards of 300 to 500 messages each day. Can you help me with my career? I want to speak to you. And, now we're over 19 and a half weeks to book a session with me, and that's even at $1,200 an hour. And I know that's out of budget of most people. And that's why I'm here once, twice a week, completely free to help you with your career. So ask us your questions so we can help you. Because I don't want you to be like me and take $20,000 of boot camps like I did 25 years ago. And yes, that was then, which was really 50, 60,000 of today's dollars, because I wanted to get there and I got the wrong advice. So ask us your questions so we can help you. How about you, Alonzo?
All these tabs, working hard. But you know what? The one thing about it is that we really have the things that you need to help you with the quickest, straightest trajectory into becoming a cloud architect. We really believe and know that we have the resources. We have the people who have matriculated on to become successful cloud architects. And we definitely, that track record definitely supports who we are at Go Cloud Career. So if you have an interest in cloud architecture, being a cloud architect, this is where it's at. So we look forward to answering your questions.
All right. So before we get into some of these questions, I want to make sure everybody is aware of a few things. Whether you're on Facebook, you're LinkedIn, or you're on YouTube, I want to make sure you're all aware of these things. So first and foremost, even though it's been over a week, we're still celebrating Alonzo's birthday. Through the end of the month, we're celebrating Alonzo's birthday. I won't say how many years it is. Maybe we'll start going in decades so it doesn't feel as old.
I don't feel as old as my age. So, but you know what? Maybe we might be able to have a raffle and see who can guess my age if I haven't told you already.
Yeah. I don't even think I know for certain. I think I've got an idea, but it's a combination of numbers between 1 and 10. So anyway, so it's Alonzo's birthday celebration still. We've got a 30% off discount for you. This is something that we, unlike before, this is available on all of our programs. On our Elite Cloud Architect program, you can save up to $2,400 on that Elite Cloud Architect program. It's available on our Tech Interview Mastery program. It's available on our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development program, the one that started it all. The one that's still going strong. that's available on that, you can enroll in that program and reap the same benefits that you've seen everyone else get for less than $350 a month now with that for 6 months. We've got different payment plans for all of our programs. We've got 3-month payment plans, 6-month payment plans, single payments, everything to try and help you fit the budget that you've got, because we know everybody's got a different budget. And we want to be able to help as many people as we can reach that goal. So that's why we've got all these options out there for you. So take advantage of that discount. Tyrone has put that in the chat box for YouTube. I'll be putting that in the chat box for Facebook and LinkedIn here in just a second, as soon as I finish talking, because I like to talk. So the next thing that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of is we've got a webinar that we're going to do tomorrow. It's going to be our How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar. And I know I just threw a curveball at Tyrone. Sorry about that, Tyrone. But I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. That is tomorrow. It's a completely free opportunity for you to learn exactly what it takes and exactly what is necessary to become a cloud architect and be able to do it as quickly as possible and most efficiently as possible. Like Mike referenced earlier, learn from our experiences, learn from his experiences, mistakes that others have made and that we've seen others made. Learn from all of these and avoid these pitfalls. Come to the webinar so that we can share the roadmap with you. And then you can learn about our program and our training. You can ask us questions off mute. You can have a conversation with us. It's a completely free opportunity that we do to help you. So make sure to sign up for that. Tyrone's got that link there in the chat box as well. Thank you, Tyrone, for being nimble there. I pulled a mic and threw a curveball. Usually it's Mike that's coming up with the random ideas, and today it's me coming up with the random idea of talking about the webinar. So just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. And Alonzo, previously, if you're on YouTube, Alonzo shared the link to yesterday's video with David from Deloitte. Bookmark that and come back to it after this Q&A. Exciting discussion from yesterday that if you didn't see it, you definitely want to make sure you watch.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm done talking. Actually, I'm going to talk just a little bit longer and kick it off with this first question. Polashaki says, when hiring managers look at the CV of a former software engineer, they'll usually reject them for architecture roles. How can you overcome this hurdle? I'm going to reference Mike's previous, it was a YouTube short or a LinkedIn video that you did about whether your resume is promoting you for what you want to do or what you used to do. Mike, kick it off. I'm going to go find that. I got to go find if that's a short or a LinkedIn video, because that's right in line with this question.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Folashaki. If I'm looking for a cat and a dog shows up at my house, I'm not going to adopt the dog if I'm looking for a cat. And if I have the resume for an engineer and someone wants to be an architect, I'm going to say, well, if I was looking for an engineer, I would consider you. But since I'm looking for an architect, no. The simple thing is we need people that can actually do the job, that are ready for the job, that have the skills for the job. And the skills of the engineer and the architect, they have about 3 to 5% in common. And the other 95% of the things are different. See, the engineer, let's say we're talking about a cloud, and you said software engineer. What's a software engineer do? They write software. That's all they do. And they're darn good at it, hopefully, because that's their whole job. Now, what's a cloud architect do or an enterprise architect do? They've got to start with the executives. And they've got to ask the executives about their business. Where do you see your business now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now? And when you're dealing with a CEO of an established company, their vision is 20 years in the future. And you've got to be able to understand their current business now and where the business is going. And if your training is engineering, which is how do I write code, and you don't know how to do that, you're not an architect. And I can't hire you because I can't hire you and hope that you can learn how to be a doctor on the job or learn how to be a lawyer on that job or learn how to be an architect. And look, I get people hired every day as architects that have never worked in tech in their life, but they're trained. And I have software engineers that have worked for 20 years that still need the same amount of training as somebody fresh off the ground, because engineering and architecture are different careers. But let's go back to that process. I asked the executives about their business goals for the future. The next thing that I do as an architect is I find out, how does the business operate today? How does revenue actually occur? What is the sales process, for example? How does the organization do marketing? How does the organization do customer service, technical support if it's appropriate for business? And I've got to go map out all those business processes long before I ever think about the technology. And then once I know how the business operates today, and the CEO and the CFO and the CIO and the CTO told me, here's how we want the business to operate in the future, I need to work with the organization to design a new business architecture. That means new business processes and whatever it takes, how to do so. And then after that, I can examine the organization's data architecture. Does the organization have data today? If so, how do they use the data? How do they get the data? Is it coming in via streaming? Is it long-term data? Is it stored in a relational database, a NoSQL database, a data warehouse, a data lake? What do they got going on right now? And for the business strategy of the future, how do they desire that to be? So that's the next step. And we've got to figure that out, and then figure out what the data needs to look like for the future based upon the business architecture of the future, based upon the vision of the future. And see, none of this is in software engineering at all, or any AWS certification for that matter, and that's why it takes training. And next, I have to look at the current technology. Are they in the data center, in the cloud? What is the utilization of their systems? What is the utilization of the network? What are the uptime requirements of the system? How is the system dealing with it? What's the security look like now? What do the applications look like now? And then I've got to find out what do we want it to be in the future. And again, then we can design the technology solutions for the future in generic terms, meaning virtual machines, containers, storage area networks, etc., based upon the vision for the business architecture, based upon the organization's vision. Now we're in the position where we can take those architectures and start breaking it down into, okay, this virtual machine is an EC2 instance on AWS and a compute engine instance in Google. It's the same technology no matter which cloud it's in. But now we build out that building block of how we're going to get this thing done. Now that we know what it looks like, we're typically going to have to respond to a RFI, RFP, RFQ. We're going to write architectural documents and solution documents. Now we've got to go sell it to the organization. We've got to meet with stakeholders on the organization. We've got to get their buy-in and approval. Then we got to go sell this thing. And it's not like selling a car. I mean, we're dealing with hundreds of millions or billions of dollars a lot when we do architecture. So now we've got to go build a business case and sell this and build an ROI model. Now we're going to be negotiating a sale for a while. And that's just the business side of these skills. And see, none of them are covered in software engineering. Now what are we designing? We're designing network, data center, and cloud technologies. And that means software might be 5% of the other 95% of the technology. So if I've got a software engineer, that's great. They have 5% of what they need. They still have to learn the other 95% to be an architect. It's kind of like a doctor that only says, I know red pills and orange pills. I mean, seriously, but they don't know how to diagnose. They don't know how to treat a patient. You couldn't go to them. So yes, nobody wants an engineer to be an architect. Guess what? Nobody wants an attorney to be their architect either. No one wants the dog walker to be their architect. And no one wants to be the airplane pilot to be the architect. They want an architect to be an architect, and it just takes the right training for that. So I hope I explained why that's there. But engineers are very techie focused. Architects are very business focused. And often organizations don't want engineers because they need somebody to focus on the business, not the tech. Because if you focus on the tech before the business, you destroy the business. And you can see in the cloud, we've had all these techies, the initial people, design all these solutions, and now we have a disaster in the cloud. It's cost 2 to 3 times more than it did in the data center because they weren't architected correctly. And now companies are going there to clean it up. So that's why they reject engineers to be architects. Not that they don't love engineers. They love engineers and engineering jobs, but not engineers and architecture jobs because it's a different career.
All right, that was a good question to start it off with. Good follow-up question. If a software engineer were to continuously turn up to work in a suit instead of a casual attire, such as a t-shirt or a polo shirt, would he likely get promoted or offered a different role?
Falashake, my wife Lisa is a beautiful woman. I've been with her for 28 years. She's a genius with 170 IQ. If she came to home one day and she put a cat suit on, I still would see her as my wife Lisa, not a feline. Then if she put on a lion suit the next day and she looked like a lion, I still wouldn't see her as a lion. And if the day after that she wore an airplane outfit, try to dress up like an airplane, I'd still see her as my wonderful wife Lisa and not an airplane. You have to be the thing that they're looking at. Now, I've seen people, because I'm a very athletic guy. I used to do these triathlons when I was younger, and you could see two sets of people. You can see the kid, and I was one of those kids, that basically had no money. So when I rode my bike, I rode in whatever cheap t-shirt and shorts I could find. But I rode that bike every single day. And then I will get to what the clothes will do for you in a minute. So I rode that bike every single day. Now, my buddy Jed's dad was a dentist. Jed had a ton of money, and Jed would spend like $300 on his uniform, and he had a $3,000 bike. This is, 30 some years ago. And then we went on a bike race together, and I beat him. Why? Because I rode my bike every single day. He bought all the gear, but he couldn't do that. But now, let's assume you have the right skills, and now you show up in a suit. Yes, you will probably earn more long term, because the better you look has a lot to what you do with it. When we communicate, 55% is what we look like when we say something, 38% is what we sound like when we say something, and 7% is the actual content. That's the data from Harvard. So yes, dressing better will work. It will help so much, but you have to have the skills. If you don't have the skills, you'd be like my wife dressing up as a cat. In the end of the day, I'm still going to see her as human. So if you have the right dress, yes, that's going to help you. But what are you looking for? If you want to be a manager, you're showing better leadership, better communication skills, better sales skills, better presentation skills. If you're not and you're only dressing better, again, you're back to the same place. It would be like my wife in a cat suit. Good question, though.
All right. So Catherine asks, is this training beginner friendly? I once attended a training, but found out it was way above my level.
Well, Catherine, and I'm going to also have Alonzo answer this too when I'm done, because Alonzo was once our student. We got him a job on the cloud, and I kind of begged him to come back. But, Catherine, the reason most people don't understand cloud computing is they take some AWS certification, and they start talking about, here's the name of a service, and here's how it works. In fact, if you actually look at AWS's definition of what is cloud computing, you could read it 50 times and still have no idea what it is. In fact, I'm going to show you the difference. If you were in my academy, I would teach you what the cloud is. In fact, I'd actually have you build one so you'd really get it. And if I told you all cloud computing is really renting space in somebody else's data center, and you're sharing access to their data center, their servers, their storage, their routers, their switches, their container, that's it. So, when you see that, and if you train by here's certification and then try to learn how to configure it, you will be lost and not know anything. That's why I retrain AWS certified people every single day of the week. And honestly, whether they have a certification or not, I have to start them at the same place. So I teach everything at the elemental fundamental level, starting from the beginning. Now, Catherine, I actually teach at least 50 or 60% of the architect classes because I like doing it, but also I used to practice medicine, and I'm really good at taking things that are very complicated and making them very simple. Because in order to learn, you've got to do that. And Catherine, because I've been an architect for 25 years, it's not going to sound like blah, 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 because I know it well enough to explain it simply. But quite frankly, Catherine, the job of an architect is to go sell billion-dollar deals, and I've sold billion-dollar technology deals. And the CEOs and CIOs and CTOs that pay for this stuff, they don't understand technology. So, Catherine, we have a full 500 to 700 hours to train you in our program. There are live classes per week. There are documents that teach the fundamentals of the training. My students ask questions in the live classes. They collaborate in between classes via Slack or via phone. They get together. They meet all over the world. And I'll give you a couple examples. We had Ivan Tamba. I always like to talk about him because he's 24 years old, and he just came in and out like a hurricane in our program in a good way. Came to America from Cameroon in my program for 6 months, and his last job was a waiter. He's now working at AWS as a solution architect, with Jordan Kitco and Coyote. Same thing, in and out. Now, I had another student, Val Winder. I'm using various companies. She was a stay-at-home mom. She left my program as a solutions architect for Microsoft. Some more non-professional tech professional people. Noah Walker was a social worker, recently got him hired. Pierre Dassault was doing some kind of work on sailboats. Now he's actually out there working as a cloud architect. Raymond Valise, really great guy, selling perfume, now out there working as a cloud architect or a sales engineer, very similar role. I can't remember exactly right now. We have Wallace Agana, who was a sales rep, became straight with no tech background, enterprise architect at JP Morgan Chase. While we're at it, Jennifer Ema was a mental health tech. They also hired her at JP Morgan Chase. And Daniel Bosa, the kid that I wish I could have adopted myself, 20 years old, didn't graduate high school, and he graduated my program by getting hired at JP Morgan Chase. Now, I could give you Al Legister, for example, never worked in tech, took a senior solution architect job at Deloitte, straight out of our training program. I've got many, many more examples that I could give you. But the point is our training focuses on making you great, and we start at ground zero. And I have to start at ground zero because let's say I've got a software engineer with 20 years experience. They only know software, which is 5% of the rest of it. And they don't know the rest. So we must work very hard to make sure everybody's at a ground level. We're super flexible. Here's how long our training program lasts until the client is hired. So we don't kick people out in 16 weeks. I've got students that have to go visit family members at Ethiopia for 6 months and then they come back, we work with them. Got students that have to visit family members in India, they go there. We've got students getting hired in every place that you can possibly imagine. In North America, in South America, in Africa, in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and of course, Australia. So we'll hope maybe you want to join us for the webinar tomorrow. We can talk face-to-face, but I'm thrilled you're here, and please ask as many questions as you can. But we're at it. Alonzo, was it beginner-friendly for you? You took our course.
Absolutely, Mike. Now, this is the wonderful thing. I think this is a very rare perspective from someone. Not only was I a product of this organization, product of the efforts, the resources, the backing that it had, but I was able to apply them, and it directly reflects what I learned and how I was able to add it for my new job. Now, Catherine, just as a background, and I'm going to be as quick as I can, I went through the gambit of learning what I thought everyone said I needed. I started to code. I did Terraform. I got all the certs that I could and went through this whole expedition of certs and discovery, but I was looking in the wrong place for the wrong resources during the wrong times. So I realized that, I wasn't getting hired. No one was looking at me. I was applying the wrong thing on my resume. Excuse me. And so I ended up looking and finding Mike through YouTube. And I got to say, he really broke down all the concepts. Because if you've done and read any of those AWS white papers, and believe me, I have a stack as tall as I am, and I'm 6'2", none of it made sense. There was no easy entryway into understanding what cloud architecture was, let alone how to become a cloud architect. It read from the perspective of a cloud engineer, as opposed to conversely here, you look at everything. Mike breaks it down about what the tech is, what it does, when you would use it, how to put all of these puzzle pieces into a business transformative solution for leadership to look at, peruse, consider. You are the person that guides them through these options, and they understand from the training that you will receive here. So I got to tell you, from an objective perspective, this is where it's at.
Right.
Yeah, she says I have read it. I have an easier time reading it upside down in another language in the dark. That's how easy that stuff was.
And if they stripped off all their fake marketing names for things and actually called things what they would be, it would be straightforward. But, they don't. So they complicate it a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Thelma says, how does a business analyst transition to a solution architect?
Thelma, exactly the same way a business analyst would become a doctor. They'd go to medical school. A business analyst and a solution architect are still very different. So you got to have the skills for the job. And there are some jobs, like a cloud admin, that you could learn on your own. You really can. Because if all you were going to do was click a couple boxes in the management console, like how to set up an EC2 instance or launch a website on S3, you can literally go to the AWS documentation, click, 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 and done. To some degree, you could even learn how to be a cloud engineer on your own, because all cloud engineering is building stuff. So you could learn how to use Linux to be a cloud engineer. You could learn how to use Terraform, potentially by yourself, if you could. You could learn how to configure the AWS environment by yourself, by watching YouTube videos. And for example, you could even learn how to write a Bash shell script or a Windows PowerShell script and a Python script on your own. You can't become an architect on your own. So you're going to have to find a training provider. It can be us. It can be an MBA program and a few other things, but you're there. So tell me, here's what you need. First, please download the completely free document on how to become a cloud architect. And next, you can also come to our free webinar tomorrow, and we'll go over the list of every skill you need. But somewhere along the line, you need to know that network, data center, and cloud skill. And it needs to be design skills, Thelma, not building. And people that have never been an architect before are going to have a hard time with this, because architecture is really theoretical in nature. It's not a tangible thing like engineering. So an architect designs a blueprint. So if I combine this many virtual machines and this type of storage area network over here, and this kind of IP addressing scheme and this kind of routing protocol thing over here, how's it all going to fit together? Now, when you do a cloud project or a lab, you learn how to click, 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 click. But they don't teach you how to design. And there's a big difference between design and building. So for example, if you wanted to have a hotel built, you'd hire an architect. But if you wanted to have somebody that actually builds the hotel, you'd hire a construction crew. The construction crew knows how to use hammers, nails, screwdrivers, saws, drills, explosives maybe. Those little, and what else do the construction people do? I don't know. I think they have welders, they have plumbers, electricians. They get their hands on stuff and they do magical things and bring it to life. I love it. But nobody asked the construction worker to design the business. So you'll have to learn all the networking components, and not how to configure them, but how they actually work. How does a server actually work? What does that processor look like? The DRAM architecture, what are those PCI buses doing? How does that connect to storage? How does the backplane of that server work? How does that hypervisor on that server work? Will the Xeon E5-2675 v3 perform like an Xeon E5-2699 v4 versus a Xeon Scalable Silver versus Gold versus Platinum? How does that going to compare to the AMD EPYC processors versus an AWS Gravitron processor? Because when you're going to design a solution like that, you have to figure out the right computational power that you need in terms of performance. And if you don't understand server architecture, you don't understand what kind of servers to use and why and what your needs are. So it's about learning how the stuff works, not how to build it, which is what's typically taught. So here's what you learn. You learn how to sell. And selling, we're talking, big business sales, which is not like selling perfume. It's not like selling retail. It's not like multi-level marketing sales. It's a very different kind of sales. It involves learning how to give presentations to the board and the C-suite. It involves learning stakeholder management skills. It involves learning heavy-duty negotiating skills, because you're going to be negotiating big deals. It involves learning something called CXO relevancy, which is how do I present to the CEO versus the CIO versus the CFO, all who have different desires than someone that's the director of IT or an engineer. It's about building spontaneous teams on demand of 5 to 50 people and leading them. It's about management of stakeholders. And of course, it's about system design. That's the role. So you get training for it. But make sure you get the right training, which is in system design. You don't need to learn DevOps. You don't need to learn SysOps. You don't need to be getting hands-on on Linux. They are engineer skills. So learn the tech, learn how it improves business, learn what it can offer, learn how to apply tech to solving business problems, because we're not engineers who solve fix tech problems. We solve business problems, and our tool is actual technology, and that's what we do. You learn those skills, there's no place in the world that won't hire, because there's just screaming demand for architects. Got lots of engineers, but almost nobody can be an architect. Nobody's trained as an architect because they're being trained in the tech, not the business. Of course, you can get an MBA to learn half of those things, and then you could get system design training too. Network, data center, and cloud, and you'll also be good to go.
All right. Well, this is a good question. Would it be wise for someone to apply for multiple different roles in the same company with different CVs?
Well, if you do that, you're going to be rejected from all roles. So the key is you can apply to one role at a company. So if Chris came to me and said, Mike, I either want to be your chief operating officer or the supervisor of maintenance or your sales rep, I'd have looked at him and said, Chris, you have no idea who you are. I don't want you in my company until you figure it out. Because if somebody thinks they're 10 different things, the reality is they're nothing. Because when you spread yourself too thin, you become good at nothing. So you've got to figure out what it is you want. Then you have to apply every last bit of energy, enthusiasm, and passion to become great at that one thing. Be great at that one thing. And then after you're great at that one thing, then you can put together a great resume. Now, something I see, I look at resumes every day. I see principal architect / DevOps. It's fake. We all know, because architecture and DevOps are two different things. Cloud architect, pipe cloud engineer. I know they're neither. Because if somebody has a cloud architect / cloud engineer as their job title, they don't know what either one even is. Because if they did, they'd know how different they were. They put it there. So you have to be good at something even to make the resume. You really, really, really need something to make the resume. And that's the reason. You got to be awesome at what you do. So if you apply for 3 jobs, you basically told me you don't know what you are. Please don't interview for any. It's a good question.
All right. Brandon says, as a previous, I'm guessing this is going to be multi-level marketing salesman, recently graduated from a boot camp for sales engineering and cloud computing. Would stacking certifications to further my education in tech be necessary?
Brendan Fraser. No hiring manager gives a darn if you're certified in anything. They care, can you do the job? So the question is, can you do the job? So in your sales engineering thing, what did they teach you? Did they teach you how to negotiate things? Because you're going to be doing that as a sales engineer. How much time was focused on presentation skills? How much time was focused on emotional intelligence training? How much time was focused in leadership training? How much time was focused in matrix management training? How much time was focused in CXO relevancy training? How much time was focused in system design? Because sales engineers typically do this. Now, in your cloud computing training, did you design stuff or did you go configure stuff? Now, sales engineers do need to do some configuring because they typically do proof of concepts. When I was a sales engineer, I never touched the tech because I really worked as an architect and I made other back-end engineers do it. But the point is what did you do in your sales engineering bootcamp? Was it system design? Was it system documentation? Did you write any thought leadership documents? Because those are the skills of a sales engineer. And what did you do on the cloud? Was it what I call real cloud training, where you built your own cloud from scratch? Did you get in that data center and did you physically work, at least, or virtually work with each of those data center technologies? Did they teach you how to negotiate with vendors? Because when you do this kind of stuff, let's say you work for AWS, even AWS are going to be working with F5 for certain things. They're going to be working with Oracle. They're going to be working with a Palo Alto. They're going to be working with a Cisco. They're going to be working with a NetApp. They're going to be working with 1,000,001 different companies. So that's the stuff sales engineers do. So I don't know what you did. I would tell you mastering the skills would be good, and getting, I like to see about 2 certifications, professional and expert level, and that is it. But I don't know what certifications you have. I don't know what job you want. I really don't know anything other than you're just telling me certifications, and I can't build you a roadmap without knowing the destination. But I typically retrain people from cloud engineering and sales engineering boot camps every single day, and that's why I asked what you learned, because those are the skills for the job, at least that job, sales engineering.
All right. I think you may have addressed this from when you were answering her previous question, but just in case, Catherine asked, how flexible is the training time? Because I understand people's schedules might differ from different time zones.
So I'll tell you when our training times are, and I'll also tell you how all of our working people get around it.
Which are 80% of our students.
Which are 80%. So, Catherine, about 80% of our students actually work full-time. Now, our times are Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and all classes are for 2 hours. Now, Catherine, we record every one of these classes. So if you can't make one, or you can only come to one a week, it's fine. You can always watch the replays of these classes and every other class that we've held in our history. Excuse me, so keep that in the back of your mind. Now, how did I choose 10 a.m.? How did Chris and I pick this time on a Tuesday? Well, it's 3 p.m. in England. It's 4 p.m. in Europe. So by doing so, we captured all of North America, all of South America, most of Europe, all of Africa, and even some of the Middle East with the majority of our times. And that's why we picked the times that we have. We had to pick them. But you can't make a class? No big deal. You can watch the recording. You can work with your people via Slack. And I've got people like in Australia that can only take one of the classes per week, and they're still getting hard and they're doing great. Same thing for people in India. I've got a student in Singapore. She makes them all. But then again, she's sort of like my hero. I don't really know if she's asleep, but she's a rock star. And Joe's pretty exceptional in every way that she seems to be. But, the point is you can do it. And I've got a lot of people that have done it. And there's nothing better than watch somebody get a really incredible job that changes their life. And in between classes, there's, tremendous amount of content for you to do. There's assignments for you to do. Everything from preparing for your interview, preparing for your resume, building your career plan, which your team gives you. And you do all that stuff on your own time. And any project-based work, you can also do all on your own time. So we know how to work with you. And we've got people all over the world that are doing fantastic.
From Fola Shaki, if an architecture job spec attempts to conflate the duties of an engineer and architect, should candidates run for the hills or take the job with hopes it's becoming a solely design and business role?
Well, there's a
couple flaws there.
Couple of flaws here. So if we're talking about the job specs, I'm assuming we're talking about the job description. Now, if we're talking about the job specs after you've actually interviewed and talked with the hiring manager and found out, if that's still after that point, they're trying to conflate the roles, then yes, run for the hills. But if we're talking about the job specs just as the job description, just disregard it and get to the interview and actually talk to somebody that knows what the role actually is. I'll let Mike talk more about it, but that, because if they're truly trying to find someone to do engineer, to design and implement and configure and do it all, what's the engineer supposed to do? But again, if we're talking about just the job description conflating, all the job descriptions conflated. Every job description. You've got like 16 jobs in most job descriptions.
Yeah.
So, but if you've gotten all the way through and you've actually talked with someone, not the recruiter or not the internal recruiter, not the screener HR person, the actual manager in the department or in the role, and they're still trying to conflate it, then run. At least that's my 2 cents. I'll see what you guys have to say about that one.
Yeah. So first, Shaki, I don't believe in any job descriptions. They're ridiculous. A job description is the wish list of the entire team and department that we would like to hire. I have never had more than 10% of the skills in a job description. And I have never, ever gone on an interview where I didn't get a job. Here's the only way you're going to ever find out what the real job description is. Either Chris or Alonzo, let's pretend it's the end of the interview and you ask if I have any questions.
Mike, do you have any questions for me?
Actually, I do, Chris. Could you tell me what your goals are and what the company's goals are? Because I'd like to know that if I was a part of your team, I can make a big impact on you and your team.
And here's where I would give a well-rounded answer about exactly what the job is. But since I'm not a good role player on the spot, I don't have an answer for that. But here's where I would tell you exactly what I'm looking for.
And here's what that would do. That would tell me the actual job description is the only way I'm going to get it, and I would sell them why they need to hire me on a job. You can't be an architect and an engineer at the same time. It is 100% physically impossible. If you're an architect, you're focused on the business, and you're roaming around the hallways talking to the people. If you're an engineer, you're stuck behind a desk, and you can't see anything when you're stuck behind a desk, which is why any job that actually touches the technology is realistically speaking an engineering job. And I show this to people all the time, but it's serious. The reason our organizations have architects is they want people that know the technology not to touch it, so they can see the big picture of everything. Because the second you don't know what's going on, errors occur. If you were here yesterday, and I remember you were, you may have heard that David Lissicum and I discuss the architect having to focus on the business and elicit information, that we have to stay focused on the business. If we don't, here's what happens. I mean, Tyrone, if you want to share my screen real quick. Here you go right now, and actually, if we can remove that banner real quick, Tyrone. This is a photo of zoomed in like an engineer would have to be. This person is deeply zoomed in, and they can see the squirrel that's in front of them. Now, if we've got a network engineer, they got to focus on the network. They're zoomed in. But if we're an architect, I've got to focus on the sales process. I've got to focus on the customer service process. I've got to focus on how the company does marketing. How does the HR department work? The finance department work? The customer journey in and out of the business. And if I'm focused on one thing like this, all you see is the squirrel. But let me show you what's really going on here. And this is why architects are not allowed to touch the technology if they work for AWS, Azure, Google, IBM, Cisco, Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Capgemini, or any company. Because right here, Tyrone, please share my screen. This is what's really going on in my backyard. Here you got my beautiful cat, Cindy. You can see the cute little pointy ears and the nice tail. And she's thinking about squirrel dinner. Now, when I only zoomed in on the squirrel, you saw the squirrel. But my cat has a different vantage point, and from her vantage point, she sees dinner. And that's the key why you can't be an engineer and an architect at the same time. And if you do, you will automatically revert to being an engineer. You may be the design engineer, but you're still an engineer. You can't fly an airplane and keep the people in their seats at the same time. And you definitely can't work there. It's funny. I remember we had somebody that wanted us to do an architect certification that called Chris and I from Microsoft. And here's what he said. Well, at least we can agree on one thing about architects. They don't touch the tech. Now, we do write PowerPoint documents. We do write Word documents. We do make a ton of Excel spreadsheets. We draw some pictures. But there's other people that cost a lot less to build the stuff than we do. And here's the reality. In at least 50% of the cases, you've got someone in the US or the UK or Canada designing the system. And once we're done selling it, the engineers are typically in India, Pakistan. They could be in Africa. They can be anywhere. But, the engineer doesn't need to be there. And that's why engineering jobs are typically outsourced and architect jobs are local, because they need to actually go talk to the customer. So, no, you can't do both. And if you try, I promise you, you'll only be an engineer. Because you can't focus on the business, can't negotiate a $1 billion deal, can't be in the boardroom, can't be managing stakeholders if you're sitting behind a desk doing code.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Mike. You think about the coding, it's absolute, just like math. It's either right or it's wrong. But considering all the nuances included in building relationships, understanding how to navigate between cultures to provide that valuation, you have to read the terrain. You have to read the environment of how they're feeling that day. They may have some stress in that day, and you have and being able to understand and read through any of that to try to reach and provide that value and get them to understand it as well. It's not all ones and zeros. It's definitely some gray areas there that only the human condition and human relationships can provide solutions for.
All right. Let's see here. The next one is a good question. Over on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Is there a time cloud engineers respond to the architect, "We cannot build your blueprint"? And what was the reason?
Let me tell you, if the architect is good, never. If the architect is bad, every day of the week. So, Jajemo, here's something that's a philosophy of mine. No one designs an architecture by themselves. No one. Follows that African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In every architecture, here's what needs to occur. And it's one of the reasons architects need such good leadership skills. I go talk to my client and they talk about all these goals that they actually have. And I go, whoa. And as soon as I'm done, I'm saying, okay, there's a lot of networking goals. I need a network architect. There's a lot of security stuff going on. I need a security architect. You know, they've got some crazy identity and access management. I also need an IAM architect. Now, let's think, in addition to this, we got a lot of Linux stuff here. Let me get a couple of really strong Linux engineers involved in the process. You know, while we're also at it, you know, we've got a lot of software and code. Let me bring in some software engineers as part of the design and part of the back end, you know, checking my systems. Wow, you know what? We're going to use infrastructure as code. Let me go talk to a couple of DevOps engineers and make sure these CI/CD pipelines the customer wants to do is going to work. And then when we're done that, you know, let's get a perspective of everybody. So you, in a good architect environment, the architect themselves is going to be consulting to 1 to 50 people, engineers and architects ahead of the time. That's if it's done right. Now, if it's done wrong, here's what happens. And sales engineers do this stuff all the time too. You'll often have solutions architects or that don't have good leadership skills, or sales engineers without good leadership skills that want to show everybody how smart they are. I did it all myself. And then as soon as they're done, it gets given to a service delivery executive on the post-sales team. The service delivery executive hands it to their engineers, and the engineers say, "What kind of idiot designed this?" And I can tell you, early in my career, I was one of those people that used to say, "What kind of idiot designed this?" And that's why I decided I would never do a single architecture on my own if I didn't have to. I always go out there. I always build the team of the best and brightest. My background has really strong expertise in networking. So other cloud architects and enterprise architects call me all the time to get networking advice from me. And I give it to them. And I call other people to ask me other things to get their advice and expertise. So yes, this will happen all the time. The people that sell it will there. In fact, here's what it used to be. It used to be they just had sales reps that would just go sell stuff. That didn't work, so then they had sales engineers go with the sales reps because the sales reps would sell anything. Then the sales engineers, a lot of them didn't have a lot of tech depth either. So then a lot of companies would do like validated designs. Like Cisco had something called Cisco Validated Designs. And you know what it would be? The sales engineer and the account executives would do it. And then they would send it to a board of people to audit the designs if it was a critical client to make sure it was going to work. And it prevents all these things. So yes, I've seen it all the time. And that's why I say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I always build myself a team. Unbelievably great question there.
All right. So Terrell says, I have a BS in
management information systems.
Yeah, that's what I was about to guess that. We're assuming management information systems. Yeah. 4 years in app support in their current role. Another 4 is a licensed investment pro client-facing role, but want to be a cloud architect. Study network architecture next? ?
Well, you're going to have to study cloud architecture. So, I mean, you want to be a cloud architect, you got to study cloud architecture. So a couple things. One is app support really doesn't have anything to do with what we do at all, but it looks good in the background. Now, the investment professional, if we're talking like a stockbroker or a Series 7, there is some business acumen in there. In that you probably know how to read a balance sheet and you probably know how to read a financial statement. And you'll understand things like beta on a stock, PE ratios, that sort of thing. But, and there's a little bit of sales in there, but you know, it's different. Hey, Alonzo, I want to tell you about the stock that we have today. Our analysts believe that investing in NVIDIA right now is a really great opportunity. They see the AI growth. They see GPUs being used for video rendering. They see video gaming growing, and it's there. Alonzo, for as little as $10,000 right now, we can probably get you a 15% rate of return. Imagine this 6 months, your wife's going to be thrilled. You're taking her on a cruise. That's how you sell $100,000 things or less. Now, Terrell, you're going to need to study sales because now, hey, Alonzo, I've got an architecture here. Alonzo, when we evaluated your business, we noted that fuel contracts were one of the most expensive things that you've actually stated your money on. We believe by creating a data lake with all this aggregated data and taking the data information out of your relational database, your NoSQL database, as well as your data warehouse, taking a combination of streaming data and smoothing it down, we can create a data lake, run some artificial intelligence, and make better price predictions. And that's going to help you buy better fuel contracts for your airline. And we believe that could yield about $1.3 billion a year in fuel savings costs. Additionally, after speaking, we heard the customer registration process was slow and buggy. We also believe by improving it, we can get you about 12% additional revenue from increased sales. This is based upon our analysis of other airlines that we also used to work with. Now, the architecture itself is about $800 million, but we believe we can generate an additional $2.3 million of sales and save $1.2 billion here. Here's the financial modeling and the calculations we've done. I'd like to consider this. Terrell, that's how you sell a $1 billion deal. That's how you sell architectures. It's not like how you sell stock. So you're going to need to learn the following. You're going to have to build executive presence, leadership skills, sales skills. You're going to have to build ROI modeling skills, unless you have an MBA or something like that that you haven't told me about in the back end. You're going to have to develop great leadership skills. Now you're going to need to understand the network, how the routing works, how the IP addressing works, how to improve the performance, getting your traffic from point A to point B. In addition to that, you're also going to have to learn all the data center stuff. All your servers and containers and orchestration and your storage area networks itself, all those applications in business that approve things, whether they be CRM systems, ERP systems, etc. You've got to understand. And then you've got to understand all the security systems and how they actually interplay together. And after you understand that, then you need to understand how to design them. That's architecture. So, these are the kind of things that you actually need to know. So you can't just pick network architecture. Now, if you just study network architecture and then get those business skills, you know what you'll be? A network architect, which is a great job. I love it. But you don't become a network architect by studying networking. You become a network architect by studying you become a cloud architect by studying cloud, which is part network. At least it's a third of it, but there's still the other 2/3 that you got to learn.
All right. So I want to take just a second. I want to remind everybody about a couple of things. We've got, if you look above me here, we've got Alonzo's 30% off birthday discount code. That's available through the end of the week. So I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that and aware of when that will end so that you can take advantage of that, because we're not always doing discounts. We don't always have promotions going on, and it's Alonzo's birthday. So celebrate his birthday by investing in yourself with our discount. That's available on all of our programs and all of our plans, our Elite Cloud Architect program, our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development program, the Tech Interview Mastery program, single payments, 3-month payments, 6-month payments, all payment plans, all programs, everything across the board. We don't usually do everything across the board. Alonzo, you're special. So,
Chris.
Yeah. Also, I want to make sure everybody's aware of our How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar that we will be doing tomorrow. And it's going to be with the 3 of us, showing you exactly what you need to become the ultimate cloud architect. We've got all the mistakes figured out. We got all the tricks figured out. We got all the secrets figured out. And we're sharing that with you tomorrow. We'll also talk about our programs, answer any questions that you have about your career choices or options or about our programs or whatever it might be. Register for that. That's a completely free webinar for you tomorrow. It will be at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Register for it. Even if you can't attend the entire thing, or even if you can't attend it at all, go ahead and register for it, because if you register for it, we're going to send you a recording of it. So even if you can't attend, even if you know absolutely not, I'm not going to be able to attend. I'm going to be 36,000 feet in the air going to visit my grandparents. Register for it so that you get that recording, so that you might have some secrets, get some secrets. So just wanted to let everybody know about that. So, and our next question is going to be from Nate Ricks. All right, Alonzo, can you read that one up?
From Nate Ricks, would accepting a job as a business contract or business process architect hurt my transformation into a cloud architect?
Well, Nate, no. I mean, if you are a business architect, you're a business architect. And the reality is, and in most cases, most people would consider a business architect a higher paying job than a cloud architect. And there's more upside as a business architect than a cloud architect. So most people don't go from business architect to cloud architect. They would go from cloud architect to business architect. But if you've got a job offer as a business architect, sure, take it. And either take that business architect job into the C-suite, or use that business architect and become a better cloud architect later. Now, it's really funny, Nate. So I fell into network architecture. Well, I didn't fall into it. I studied it. But, it was something that I fell into because, I learned medicine, which is architecting people's health. And then after that, when I learned architecture, it was like, oh, yeah, this is the same job I've been doing. But, instead of architecting their wellness path, I'm now architecting the business's wellness path. And when I was at Cisco, they had a position open for a strategy consultant. So I took it, which was a business architect. And, 3 months into the job, they're like, we need an enterprise architect in the same role. It's the same title. It's the same this. Would you do that stuff while you're also a business architect? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? So one day I'm doing strategy consulting, and the next day I'm doing architecture strategy consulting. Same job. I can't tell the difference, honestly. So no, it would definitely help you. But it would give you more business acumen. It would give you more leadership, and it would probably help you move into more of an enterprise architect job than a cloud architect job, which is totally fine, Nate. Nate, I know you. I'm pretty sure we both went to Widener University, which means I know you've got a good business school education. I would highly recommend, if you have a business architect job, get it. And I would also recommend the things that you would have learned from us to leverage that over there as a business architect. They're the same set of skills, and a lot of those skills that I teach are actually business architect skills that I got from strategy consulting. Love how sometimes these things can go full circle.
All right. By virtue of the skills needed to attain the role, is a principal software engineer implicitly an architect?
No. An engineer is an engineer, as an architect is an architect. This is water. This is a phone. Now, this is expensive bottled alkaline water. This is a mobile phone with a photo of my cat Cindy on it. I can call this, lightning water, but it's still not a phone. So no, the title means nothing. I mean, I know people that have been working as architects that show up and say, I'm a geek. I know other people that show up and say, I'm your system designer. Title means nothing. What you do as your job defines your job. There's people that aren't managers that are great leaders. They're leaders. Anybody can be a leader if they have the right abilities. So no, not at all.
From Anthony, how many certifications is ideal to have your resume applying for solutions architect jobs? Also, what are the key tips to improving communication and interview skills?
Well, let's separate these things, Anthony, because you can get a solution architect job with 0 certifications, but you can't get any solution architect job without good communication skills. So how do you do it? You get training. So, for example, I know you. When you're in class, speak up. We will tell you how. You know, when you turn in your documents and we give you a presentation and we say, wait, pause here, increase your energy, vary your vocal tone or something, do that. We have you doing drills in this course where we get other people's perception of you versus your perception of you. There's a reason for that. We want to see that how others perceive you is like you, and if not, you need to change something. So the key is to communicate and to communicate more and get feedback along the way. So I have a communication skills coach. I've had one for 20 some years. If I've got a critical presentation to do, and I've given a lot of big presentations, I go to that communication skills coach. Do you know who goes to communication skills coaches? CEOs of all the biggest technologies. Every time they've got a big presentation or they've got a big investor meeting, they go to their presentation coach. Because they're trying to raise a few $1 billion, even though the CEOs are great, they want to be 1 or 2% better. So do it every single day. Now, Anthony, I know you. You got a group of people that you can present to every single day in any country in the world. Go build presentation groups with them. That's what I would do. I would take advantage of the training that you have gotten access to and do it, and do it some more. Now, how many certifications is ideal? Well, 2 to 3 is probably perfect. I like to say, don't have associate certifications on your resume. Have professionals and professional only. 1 CCIE is worth more than all 10 AWS certifications, all the Azure certifications, and all the Google certification associates put together. Why? Because you got to be really good to pass the one, and anybody can pass it, the others. And why is it that anybody can pass the others? Well, here's a text I got just the other day. I don't know if it's going to be easy to see, and here's what it said directly on it. I'll read it to you. PMP, CISSP, Cisco, Azure, and more. Pass first, then pay. Our success is 100% guaranteed. I mean, there's this stuff that I get every day. AWS has free exam retake going on. Azure has open book exams. Nobody cares about your certifications because everybody can pass them. If you're going to get one, maybe an AWS Solutions Architect Professional or an Azure Solutions Architect Expert, maybe a TOGAF, and maybe a networking thing like a CCNP, if you're interested in security, a CISSP, big ones. But don't get these associate certifications and collect a stack of them. It's kind of like somebody, they can get 3 associate degrees versus 1 master's degree, or 4 associates versus a PhD. Go for the gold, get the big ones. 1 or 2 is enough. 1 to 3 is perfect, but 1 to 2 is generally enough. But instead, spend all that extra time that other people focus on certifications, which really teach you not what you need to know. Focus on being the best of the best of the best at the critical skills for your job. Then you can do anything.
From Angelo Joseph, for people enrolled in the Elite Cloud Architect program, what is the recommended amount of time per day to spend on learning and studying?
How much time do you have? I mean, everybody's different. So, that's why our training is until you're hired, because I could tell you that we recommend 10 hours a day, but not that we recommend 10 hours a day, but I could tell you that. But that's completely useless if you don't have 10 hours a day to be able to do. The more important thing is, how consistent should you be? Absolutely consistent. That's the answer to that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely consistent. So whatever that amount of time per day or per week that you allocate yourself, stick to it. If it's an hour a day, stick to it. If it's an hour on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, stick to it. Do it an hour a day, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Now, guess what? Don't just say, I'm going to do an hour a day on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, because guess what that does? when am I going to do it on Monday? I got a whole 24 hours to figure it out. When am I going to do it on Sunday or Saturday? I got a whole 24 hours to figure out. Don't just say an hour a day. Say, I'm going to do it at XYZ on Monday for this long. I'm going to do it for this long at XYZ on Wednesday. It's critical that you get very specific, because if you're not specific, then you're not going to be accountable. You're going to fall off, and you're going to fall off the wagon, so to speak, and you're going to wonder, why haven't I gotten anywhere after a couple of weeks? And well, it's because there hasn't been any consistency. That's my thoughts there. And that's for anybody in any program, anywhere in the world.
Think about this as well, Angelo. It starts, what you say in the interview is going to be reflective of how you train today. So if you are inconsistent in your approach, it's going to lend to the fact of how are you going to answer questions in the interview. I'm not sure when I'm going to study, which translates to I'm not sure what these concepts are, which translates to I'm not sure how to answer these questions in the interview process. So when you start that consistency, it's going to ramify into how you approach your career. So it's just very important that when you think about the salary, your trajectory, your opportunity, you want to take that by the horns today, and you want to create that standard of excellence today so that it's going to translate in the future. So I would recommend, however your day is, what's your free time looking like? Do you spend it in, Netflix, watching your movies? Do you spend it in areas where maybe you can sacrifice that time to transform your skill set into becoming a cloud architect? Think about those things and how you want to reward yourself when you get that job offer.
All right. All right, let's see. Kevin asks, and I'm assuming he means if he's being told about a tech interview as part of his interview process. Is it okay to ask what to prepare for during a tech interview?
Kevin, absolutely not. Kevin, you have to be able to do the job, and you have to know it. Chris tells me, I want you to be a cloud architect. What does that mean to you? Can I learn it overnight? Kevin, we have to be in a position where we're ready for the job. If we're not ready for the job, we definitely should not interview. We definitely should not interview. If you have to ask the hiring manager what to prepare for, you are not ready. Please do not interview, because if you do, very negative things are going to be there. So the key is you need to know what it actually is. So the better thing is interview when you're ready, and then be selective about going on interviews that have jobs that match the skills that you have. Because and let's take it in any job. Alonzo is now entering me to be an internal medicine nurse practitioner. Alonzo, what's internal medicine? Can you tell me what I need to learn about internal medicine? And Alonzo is going to say, Mike, if you didn't spend the last 7 years in school learning that, I can't hire you. Chris, I want to be the general manager of a hotel. What do I need to know at your hotel so I can prepare for the interview? So you could see how honestly that would work. So Kevin, you're a smart guy. I actually know who you are. Really build those fundamentals first. When you're ready, then you'll be good to go. But no, you really can't ask them. You can't. Now, what you could do is if you see some wacky job description, because 99% of job descriptions that I've ever seen are irrelevant, you can ask other people that you know at that company that have the same job, what do you do in that job? You can do that. You can cyber stalk other people's LinkedIn profiles in the same page and kind of get some information. You can build relationships and build networks. You can ask other people ahead of time. Those kind of things you can do. You can even cyber stalk the hiring manager, and I know we taught you how to do that, to kind of figure out the things that they actually like and the things they talk about, because they may be the things they would be better prepared. But no, you got to be great for the job. You got to be prepared for the job before you get there.
All right. So we are getting close to the end of the questions. So if anybody has any questions, make sure to put them in your chat box. If you're on Facebook if you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, put it in the comments. We'll answer questions as long as they're around. But if we run out of questions, we got plenty of other work we can be doing. So we'll get on out of here if we run out of questions. So don't let us run out. All right. Are head of department director roles generally off limits for those without an MBA or without equivalent expertise?
You've got to have the expertise for any job.
Yeah.
If you don't have the skills for the job, you can't do it. And nobody's going to hire somebody without the right expertise. But as far as an MBA, look, I love an MBA. I have one. Alonzo has one. Chris has one. And the people on my executive team need MBAs. Why do they need them? They all help teach business acumen in the program, and you can't teach a skill that you don't have the formal education in. But I know lots of CEOs with a bachelor's degree. I know plenty of executives that don't have MBAs. Not getting a strategy consulting job or a management consulting or a business architect job at a big four consulting firm like Accenture, Deloitte, or KPMG, going to be pretty rough without an MBA. But to get any level VP job or director job, you can do that without an MBA as long as you've got the right expertise. But if you don't have the right expertise, and it's not experience, it's expertise, no, can't hire anybody for the job. I mean, there's no such thing as a job that as a good job that says, here, I'll just bring you in and we'll just send you to training. If you have most of the skills, I can send you to training for the gaps. And I'm happy to do it, and I do it all the time. But you've got to have something.
From what I'm told, many head of departments and directors have coaches. Would you recommend this? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I still have a coach.
And here, let's take this a step further. A lot of the companies will have them for you, have them available and accessible to you. So that's how much of a yes it is. That it's not just us as individuals saying yes; it's companies as a whole saying yes. So sorry, I meant to get that out a little bit faster. Sorry.
So the answer is yes, 100% get a coach. But the question is when. And what I like to do is I like to use the best and most efficient and cost-effective resource I can, and then add the best. We've got a tech leadership program. It's about $5,000. That will teach you 75% of the things that the coaches would teach you over the course of 3 years of coaching. A good coach is $300 an hour. So if you meet with a good coach every week for 52 weeks, that's $15,000 per year. And even in a year with a coach, you're not going to learn as much as you would in that program of ours. So the key is, and there's even 3 coaching sessions in that program of ours. So the key is what I would first do is I would get the best education I could afford. And then afterwards, then I would get a coach. Because you definitely should get a coach. But I want to have my fundamentals down before I get there. And that way we maximize every dollar you spend. If you don't have a great education yet, and I don't know what your education is, get to some minimum level of education where you've got your fundamentals strong, where you can do it. So it's kind of like when I was in martial arts. I attended martial arts classes 3 times a week for several years. Now, after several years of going 3 times a week, I realized that, I wasn't getting that much better. And then I started working with a coach every week. And by comparison, that's when I went from good to really great. So when it comes to the type of coaches we have, every executive has a coach. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, first thing executives do is they get as much education as they can. People that are more successful in life tend to invest in education. People that are less successful in life tend to spend their money on pleasure. I can tell you that right now. So the first thing that I would do is I would get a really good education from the best places I could. Once I was done that, then I would get a coach. And now what kind of coach? I'd get a couple of them. I actually have a meditation coach. keep me nice and calm so I can stay emotionally intelligent. I also have a strength and conditioning coach that works with me to make sure that I can stay fit and healthy with the injuries that I have. I also have an executive coach that works with me to make sure that I can think about things to get better. And truth be told, if I've got a big presentation, I'll probably deal with a presentation coach as well. And I've got one of them on staff. But I meet with my executive coach either every week or every other week, and all executives do. So yes, strongly recommend a coach. Definitely do. I'm just saying, make sure you've got the fundamentals down before you get that coach. Unless you've got a really good budget. And if you've got a good, strong budget right now, guess what? I would get education and a coach. But if you're part of that privileged percentage, I grew up before I had an education, life was tough for me. After an education, and I've got a $300,000 plus education, I was paying for coaches, and it's changed my life.
I'm actually kind of confused by this next question. I enrolled in a Toastmasters program. Would it matter if it was on Zoom versus in person?
Yes. Well, first, Nate, you're a pretty educated guy. I know where you went to school. I use Toastmasters with people that they don't have any money. They're not in a position to get really great training, and I'm trying to get them better for free. A guy like you with an MBA, I don't know if the Toastmasters is going to be lower than you're already at right now. But it does give you a place to present. The more you present, the absolutely better. The question is the kind of feedback you're going to get. So instead of listening to their feedback per se in Toastmasters, because it's going to be relatively elementary for your level, look at the expressions and body language on the people. And yes, Toastmasters will be great. Now, the key is there's never the same of being there versus being on Zoom. So because of that, I would say go be there whenever possible. But go build some relationships while you're there. Go there. Practice taking different stage positions. See what happens if you move around the stage. Look at the expressions and body language. Are they opening up and leaning forward? Good job. Keep going. Are they sitting like this? Or worst case scenario is, are they doing this? In which case, so there's that. And you're not going to know that unless you're there. So being there is much, much, much better than actually doing anything on Zoom.
All right. Tiggleman says a recruiter reached out today and asked, what do you do at GoCloud and what are your salary expectations? How should I answer? So first of all, they reached out and that's the first thing they asked you. Let's think about that for a second. If that's what they now, if that's not what they first asked you, then it's a different story. But if that's the first thing they asked you, then I don't know what I would do there. But if they ask what you do at GoCloud, actually, I don't even know where. I don't even know the whole conversation. I don't have enough to. Yeah, you're in the program. Use the channels on Slack.
Yes.
Use
Especially since you're only in the program.
You probably shouldn't. You should probably go with our normal of. I'm not necessarily looking for a job at this time. I'm very comfortable where I'm at, but I'd like to stay connected so that in the future, if I so desire, I can reach out. But use your Slack channels. Use your Slack channels. You'll get a lot of great answers from a lot of people that have been in the same situation as you.
I think that's terrific. But Dingleman, in the last 2 weeks, I don't think you probably learned how to become a cloud architect yet, because you've only been with us for less than 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't go on an interview until I was ready. And what happens when you do, you burn that employer forever. And all the people that interview you who may go to other companies won't want to interview you again in the future. So I would basically say, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm very satisfied in my current position, but I might be looking in 6 to 9 months. Can we keep in touch? Because I'd like to build a relationship with you. So I'm ready to work with you then. That's what I would strongly recommend. But it's true, Dingleman. The second you put down GoCloud Careers on your resume, the world's going to come to you instantly. especially if you start there. And I've got a lot that your biggest trouble for most of our students is telling recruiters I'm not ready yet for a job because our brand is so strong, because the work we do in the media and etc. and our name, because of where all of our students have graduated in our alumni network. But please don't go on an interview until you're ready.
How do employees without technical knowledge attain roles that require technical leadership? You get the technical knowledge.
You get the technical knowledge, but here's something that's very important. I remember one of the best internal medicine physicians that I ever met. He had lost a son to drug addiction, and he decided to go apply as the head medical director for a drug rehab center. And we spoke right after his interview, because I prep everybody for interviews, even physicians from time to time. And on his interview, he was asked, and they said, "Are you a drug addict?" And he said, "No." And they said to him, "Well, how are you going to know how to take care of drug addict patients?" And the doctor said, when I graduated medical school 30 years ago, I had patients that had a heart attack, and I never had a heart attack either. He said, I also had patients that had arthritis, and I never had arthritis either. And I also had patients that had diabetes, and you know what? I didn't either, because I learned it. So the key is education. Now, I'll also tell you, I don't need my technical leaders to be great at tech. I need them to be great at leadership. Best chief technology officer I ever worked with, never worked with tech in his life. The CEO, it was at a big bank I worked at many years ago, a big investment firm. The CEO took his buddy and said, "You're my new chief technology officer." He was the best chief technology I've ever seen. And here's why, Fulasaki. Here's what he did. He found me as the network architect. He found a really great applications guy to be the application architect. He found some security architects. He found a bunch of us, and he said, "You guys are my advisory panel." And he said, "What do you need? I need the best technology in the world. You figure out, I'll find a way to remove it." And he consulted to the people that actually knew better. Because those network architects that spent their life in networking knew far more than he would ever learn. And they forget more each day than he could ever learn as being the chief technology officer. Same thing for the application architect. So what's the job of a good leader? To hire people that know more about them than the things that they actually need and lead them to be great. And that's where people really err in technology. They're like, "I'm more qualified than my manager." No, the manager is qualified to be the leader, and the person's qualified to be the doer. Now, the leader doesn't have to know how to do the doer's job. The leader needs to know how to do the leader's job. So the key is, first, they get the job and they obtain any technical leadership knowledge they have. And, I'd say at the C-suite, when you're dealing with CIOs and CTOs, 2/3 do come from tech, and 1/3 of them have never worked in tech in their life, and they're just as good because their job is not about the tech. The job is, how do we make the business better with tech? And let's face it, a better business leader can find better people to do things and get all their goals met. But if the technology person doesn't understand the business, it doesn't matter how good their tech is. It's just the tool. So it depends. But I've worked with tech leaders that know absolutely nothing about tech, and then they learn as they're working. But they've got great leadership, and each time there's a project, people teach them stuff along the way. And I've seen them to be great. I've also seen people that had a tech background that went to business school and learned things that were also great tech leaders. They're both. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of ways I'd say to skin the cat. My cat Cindy would be upset with me. So there's a lot of ways to eat an apple. You can cut it in slices, for example. You could take a bite out of it. I think my cat Cindy would be happier with that example.
All right. Well, there are no more questions. Mike, you want to share any last words and see if we get any questions roll in while you're giving us some last thoughts?
Yeah, so the key is whatever you desire to do, you can do anything, as long as you get the right skills. Every job has a different set of skills. A doctor and a nurse have a different set of skills. A network architect and a security architect have a different set of skills. A cloud architect is a very different set of skills than a cloud engineer. The only thing they have in common is the word cloud, honestly. So the key is to get to any goal, find out exactly what you need to be great at your job, and then work backwards and go get those skills. You know, it's interesting. Innovation is the exact opposite of what most people do. Innovation is you find your ultimate goal and then you work backwards. What most people do is they're like, I have this, what can I do with it? Here's the secret. You can do anything you want. Want to be a doctor? Almost every one of you on this call can do it. I promise you. Go to medical school and poof, you'll be a doctor. Want to be a lawyer? Go to law school and guess what? You'll all become lawyers. Want to become a cloud architect? Go to cloud architect school and guess what? You'll all be cloud architects. So don't let anything ever keep you from your goal. Just go out there and get the skills. Get the right skills. Invest in yourself. Because if you don't, I promise you, nobody else will. I promise. Get the best education you can for whatever skills you are. You do that, you can do absolutely anything. And I mean literally anything. So believe in yourself. Take that dream, build a plan, execute on that plan, and I promise you, when you go from point A to point B, there's going to be stumbling blocks. It's not going to all be sunshine and roses. And when you get a roadblock in front of you, take a deep breath, think about it, and obliterate that obstacle and run through it. Do that enough to get to your goal. And it's not just tech. You know, I have friends in the special operations community, and guess what? In that community, the people that make it, they're not the best athletes. They're not the people that were on a pro football team. They're the people that won't quit until they win. Guess what? I worked in business. At the top, it's not the kids of rich people. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it was the poor kid growing up that just had an undesiring desire to succeed. You know, there was a paper that was written by IBM. There was a book, I wish I could still had it. I lost it in one of the moves. And it was management letters of IBM. And these were internal memos. It was the coolest thing ever. And one of the memos at IBM was, do we hire MBAs or PhDs? Now, this is a 40-year-old memo, but here was the difference. In those days, 30, 40 years ago, the people that had an MBA were children of rich people. They could afford college, they went and got an MBA. And they were very well educated. The PhD was a poor, smart, with a deep desire to be rich. And IBM favored PhDs. So did Bear Stearns and a few other people. They wanted those people that had a fire in their belly that said, there's nothing I can't do. And boy, did they achieve it. I have taken people from wealth. I have taken people that were PhDs, and I've gotten them all to places they both never dreamed possible. So the point is, you can do it. Go after your dreams. Do anything you possibly desire. Just go after it. And then start. And start right now, not a week from now, not a month from now. The journey to 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that step now. Go after your dreams. So, if you haven't downloaded the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job guide, download it. It's free. Join us tomorrow on the How to Get Your First Job webinar, and it'll be on Zoom, which means we can have a face-to-face conversation and answer your questions. And guess what? It's my good friend Alonzo's birthday. And that means 30% off of everything. In fact, we never discount our elite program because it actually has about a 50% discount already buried in there between the, between the 3 coaching sessions, as well as the discounted price for all the work that we have. It's never discounted. And right now, until Friday, our elite program, which is the combination and culmination of all my life's work, is available at 30% off in addition to our regular program. And it's not just my life's work. We have business school professors in this program, 2 of them. Chris and Alonzo teach in this program. Application architects teach in this program. Enterprise architects teach in this program. Software developer, application architects are in there. Enterprise architects are in there. Network architects are in there. It's the best of everyone. Has our best interview training, our best leadership training, our best everything. So take advantage of everything that we have right now. Yeah, if you haven't seen our show yesterday, where David Lithicum, who's Deloitte's head of cloud strategy, and I spoke, please do so. You can find the link on our channel. Actually, my team can pop the link to it too. Hear the discussion we had. Listen to how we talked about these architecture jobs being predominantly business. Starting at the business, focusing on the business, doing the business. We even talked about architects not touching technology yesterday. And business, 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 business. See it from yourself. And that way you can hear that the people that are running these cloud computing organizations are looking for the same stuff that we teach. And you'll do great in your life. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Hope to see all of you on the webinar. I saw a couple of you guys joined, and I can see you in class. So for those of you guys that joined, please read that welcome email. The worst thing in my mind is somebody signs up and they don't come to class. So for those of you that do, please read that welcome email. I only want people that sign up for our class to get hired in the end. And buying the course is part of it. Doing the course is the rest of it. So for the people that signed up, I can't wait to meet you. See you really soon. For the rest of you, come to our free webinar tomorrow. Watch that video yesterday and do anything we can. We'll do to help you around here. Take care and be well.